All business is risky because most fail. But that process of trying and maybe failing again, but then sometimes succeeding is what made America prosperous. Many people call it the American dream. But now I'm told the American dream is dead.
You can't just make it if you try. The American dream is dead.
Really? I assume that's just the victim mentality that's all over the left-wing media. But conservative economist David Goldman also says the American dream is dead.
Well, John, it's not dead. It's under an evil spell, like Sleeping Beauty. We can get it back, but people are not perceiving entrepreneurship and innovation affecting their lives the way it did in the past.
Really? Because I am. I see it all around. Maybe I'm biased because I work at Fox Business, but I see all kinds of people with new ideas.
You're biased because you've got a job. It's just one simple fact. The Russell 2000 companies, which are smaller, expanding companies, have half the number of jobs they did before the 2008 financial crisis because the United States government has done everything possible to make it hard for people to take a new idea from inception to startup to expansion.
Because they keep passing more rules.
Absolutely. Just before the show, I had lunch with the former chairman of one of the largest home furnishings chains, and I told him I'd be on the show, and he said, just tell him, shut Washington down. That's all we need to do.
Well, good luck with that. You also say globalization makes it tougher. I would think it would make it easier. You get customers all over the world.
Globalization increases the threshold, John. So you need to hire the people overseas. You need the marketing people, the government relations people, the translators, and so forth.
Government relations people.
Well, when you're dealing with a lot of countries, particularly in the developing sector, which is where a lot of the growth is coming from, dealing with governments is an art, not a science.
I interviewed one billionaire who's a good example of someone who's achieved the American dream. When Mark Cuban was 24 years old, he had no money and no job prospects, so he created several companies.
I just worked, literally all night, every night. To me, the most patriotic thing you can do as an American is be filthy rich. You're creating jobs. You're creating opportunities.
Cuban started the company CompuServe. Then he started HDNet and Broadcast.com. He sold that company to Yahoo for $6 billion. Now he hosts a TV show that invites entrepreneurs to pitch ideas and sometimes invests in them.
$500,000 for 45% of the company.
It's exciting, and his show's a hit. But they probably stole the idea from this old PBS show.
Looking for money to grow. We call it Money Hunt.
He's got a product that's very good, but what will make it market differentiatable?
I love the idea for your business, and I just want to reposition your entire company already.
Every time you think this guy has just gone over the rainbow, he keeps sucking you back in.
The speaker there was entrepreneur Miles Spencer. Here he is, almost 20 years later. And now you don't just give him advice, you're investing in companies.
That's correct, both cash and what most importantly is the mentorship and advice, team building and leadership.
So what about this theme, the dream is dead?
Well, absolutely not. I don't think the dream is dead. I think it certainly dies in certain sectors. Creative destruction is what built this country, and that's what many companies are built upon. So every time a .com failed a few years ago, a decade ago indeed, there was a Google that emerged.
All right, so one business featured on Miles' old PBS show was Pirate Brands. They make stuff like Smart Puffs, Pirate Booty. Miles gave the CEO advice, and apparently you helped him.
A couple of seasons ago, he came on this show doing $2 million in sales. He waltzes back in here at 17, headed to 25.
That turned out to be one of the program's big successes. They just sold out to some big food company.
B&G Foods, as a matter of fact, Robert was a tremendous entrepreneur, but really a scientist who could create very tasty treats, but needed the team building and leadership and mentorship that allowed his business to grow. And so,
if it's tasty, I'm doing a commercial for it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it just succeed because it tastes better? Isn't that all you have to do?
That's a quaint thought, I suppose. But today, it's, as you said, a global economy. It's an economy that competes across so many different categories. So it is crucial to have great marketing, great product. And so it's not just about a one-trick pony anymore.
Any other successes you found on your PBS show?
There was one particular company, Register.com, which was so good, actually. We did invest in them. We put them on as an expert. Deutsche Bank took them public for about $1.4 billion in 2000.
Failures?
Tons of them. As a matter of fact, there was one entrepreneur that we wrote a check about 6 figures on the show, and I think the money was gone before the commercial break. And per your
that was the dot-com bubble.
It was the dot-com bubble, and you know there are other shows out there today that a lot of entrepreneurs try to pitch and get a check and wrangle a check out of predators after 20 minutes. But the reality is, it takes a lot more to build a business than just a 20-minute pitch.
But as I can feel as you talk about this, there's an excitement there. I feel it around here at Fox Business, that being an entrepreneur, taking the risk, trying something, it just builds adrenaline.
I absolutely thrive upon the adrenaline.
And part of the adrenaline is that when you invest, odds are you'll fail.
Oh, 80% of them fail in the first year, 10% in the second, and I think 5 in the third. So you got 5 companies left standing out of 100 after 3 years.
But the 5 have to be profitable enough to pay for the 95 failures.
And then some. So I mentioned one of my hits, and that would pay for 10, 15, 25 failures.
I'm also an entrepreneur. I used to be an executive at Bank of America. Now I work for a 2-year-old startup Hong Kong investment bank. I love entrepreneurship. The question is, are ordinary Americans seeing the benefits of entrepreneurship in a way they did in the past? In the Reagan administration, most jobs were created by startups. Big companies lost jobs. In the Obama administration, the Russell 2000 has half the jobs. Most of the jobs are coming from big companies. The kind of confidence that ordinary Americans had that entrepreneurship would improve their lives has been lost.
Where'd you have more fun, at the big company or this little?
Small company, no question.
Let's talk about our current president. He seems a little schizophrenic about business. In 2011, he said this.
America's always been a nation of doers. We build things. We take risks. And we believe that if you have a good idea and are willing to work hard enough, you can turn that idea into a successful business.
Yes! But then, 2 years later, he said this.
If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. If you got a business, you didn't build that.
What's that about? I mean, well, 2 years later, this is politics?
There is a kernel of truth in what Obama is saying. All the technologies that transformed the American economy in the 1980s and 1990s had some government participation. Microchips, microwaves, lasers, all of these things.
Some, but a small amount.
Well, the big point here is government doesn't pick who succeeds or fails. It's the free market that does that. That's what's so great about entrepreneurship. And yes, it is much more exciting to start a business than to run than to work for a large company.
Now the president says it's government's job to help businesses succeed.
I've called on my entire administration to help entrepreneurs get loans, cut through red tape, speed up innovation, and get their businesses off the ground faster.
What? They've done the opposite. They pass 1,000 new rules every week. All those rules are obstacles to entrepreneurship. When I interviewed Mark Cuban, he said under today's rules, he could not have built the businesses he once built.
A lot of these things now, there's so much paperwork and regulation, so many things that you have to sign up for, that you have a better chance of getting in trouble than you do of being successful.
And this is what upsets me when my president says, we're going to help people get loans. Like they're going to pick and choose?
Well, I don't know whether the government wants to be our partner here. Government isn't the partner that I think of. I mean, the partners that I think of are sweating payroll, are working with me the late hours over the weekend, or developing products. Someone that shows up in April on one day and wants a dividend check isn't a partner.
The left now says income inequality, which is big in America, that's a threat to the American dream.
No one cares if Bill Gates becomes a gazillionaire if their life improves. The problem is median household income is down by 10% in the last 10 years. The threat to the American dream is that people are not making the kind of money they had in the past, didn't have the kind of opportunities. The fact that so few people get rich has nothing to do with that. It's a question of how they get rich. People get rich by creating new companies and new products which benefit everybody.
That's the dream.
Nobody cares. That's the dream. The equality issue is a complete red herring.
Now, there's something called CB Research that has a death chart. Tell me about that.
Yeah, occasionally I use the death chart actually to assess what kind of an industry I might like to invest in next, right? And it is the statistical analysis of how many businesses have started within certain industries and how many have failed within those industries. Those are the ones you probably want to stay away from.
Well, at the top here, social media, that's booming, so I don't get it.
Yeah, category killer. Facebook. There were thousands of other social media businesses that were spawned in competition to that. For the most part, many of them have been wiped out. Gone. Wouldn't invest in that today.
LinkedIn had a column, 10 reasons you have to quit your job, which went viral. Everyone is an entrepreneur. It's one of the arguments. Abundance will never come from your job. This says the dream is alive, go do it. And
well, I certainly think so. Being an entrepreneur and creating businesses is so much better than working at your job. Having said that, it's not for everyone. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of lumpiness. There's a lot of risk, which is the title of this segment. So,
yeah, I'm checking.
Most people are not entrepreneurs. An entrepreneur is someone.
How do we pronounce it? We pronounce it two different ways here. Who's right?
Tomato,
potato.
Absolutely. An entrepreneur knows that his perpetual motion machine is going to make him $1 trillion with absolute certainty. They've got complete faith in their projects. 90% of them are wrong.
So a good entrepreneur is deluded.
90% of them are going to lose their shirts, and the 10% are going to make our lives better. Most people do not have the faith in themselves and the vision to be entrepreneurs. That's why most of us ought to be working for those entrepreneurs who do have the competence and the vision.
There's a great saying, many great young entrepreneurs didn't know what they couldn't do.
And final thought, Amazon, I learned, will now pay employees $5,000 to quit?
That's leave bonus. I've done it in my companies after 90 days. If someone doesn't espouse our core values, if someone isn't actually got their wheel to the
motivated to do a good job.
Exactly. Then they're going to become cancer, and they're going to affect others within the organization. And we're growing businesses very quickly. We can't run fast on a bad wheel. So we offer people a leave bonus after 90 days.